Good afternoon, everybody. We're back with a power couple, two authors, Lara Bernhardt and her husband, Bill Bernhardt. And they are authors. They do a lot of things to help other authors, and I'm going to have them talk about it. But first, I just want to talk about how you two met. How
Oh,
did you guys, what was the
sure.
love story? Valentine's Day is around the corner. Here
That's
you
true.
are,
Yep.
both authors, and
Yeah.
I want to know how that works.
Well, we actually met the first time when I was attending a workshop that Bill was giving, kind of a series of fortunate events. The job that I had, someone just happened to walk by. He was a goofball. He would walk by as he came inside, and he would always say something silly like, when are you going to get that margarita machine or something silly? And this one day he just looked at me and said, have you finished writing that novel yet? And I had just finished writing my very first novel. And so I was shocked and said, I did write a novel. How do you know? And this guy kind of whipped back around and said, wait, you really did write a novel? Turns out he's a creative writing professor.
Aha.
Oh,
He
But he
actually,
made you laugh, huh? He made you laugh. Was that it?
well, this was some other guy. He's the one who told me
she's
about
not to me yet.
not to you yet. I've backed up a little bit.
Oh,
This is
what?
some other guy
Oh,
who
okay.
who was integral in setting us up together, sort of. He doesn't know it, but he set me on the path that put me in Bill's workshop. And then after that, we kept bumping into each other at various conferences and book related events, and kind of took a shine to each other. And
Is that what you
Well,
call
that's
it?
how Pat Conroy and
yes,
Cassandra King met. They met at a library conference.
yeah.
So, I love
The only reason
great.
I do these, I just wanted to meet somebody, but
Oh,
now I have, so I don't know. So
You got a gem, Bill. I'm going to tell you.
it worked
And the
out.
books, yeah, and the books that you guys are writing, I want to briefly talk about. First of all, Laura has two books, and they're set in India, and they're amazing. And of course, I have this whole thing for any book set in the Pan Asian community and other countries. So I fell in love with her and met her. But I've known you for a long time, Bill, and you do not know this. But
Oh,
I'll be a
what
book
did I do?
Oh, great. Thanks. I used to be a book rep for Southern Territory Associates, and I used to call on Scott Perry
That
and
novel idea.
Novel Idea, and he
Yeah.
bought books for both his stores. And I can't remember who publishes you, but I was representing that publisher. And
Random
the first
House,
time I went in
Sondheim.
to meet, yeah, and the first time I went in to meet with Scott, your book came up. It was the latest book, whatever it was. And this is a long time ago because, I've been doing the Pulpwood Queens for 25 years and it was before that. But he said, oh, on Bill Bernhardt's book, he goes, I want 50 copies for each store. He goes, no, make it 100. And I was like, first of all, who is this Scott
Because he
Perry? And
lost his mind.
how do you sell 100 books? And he goes, he's a local author and everybody loves him and all this stuff. So every time I come in, I would just get a thrill because, I got commissions on all the books I sold. So, you helped me make me, a best-selling
Well, I'm
rep.
glad I could help out.
You did. You helped
But
me
you
out
helped
immensely.
me too. So
So I've been adoring you from afar. And then when Lara told me she was married to you, and I go, oh God, he's so big. I don't think I could get him to my weekend. Well, Laura did it. Laura got you there. So now that you're
we're
here,
one special.
you got
now
the
that you're
inside track.
here, it's the last one.
Yeah.
But hold on. It's the last Pulpwood Queen girlfriend weekend. So, but I'm not done promoting authors. So I'm going to tell you what I'm going to be doing at the end of this weekend. So for now, I want you to talk about, each of you talk in conversation with each other about your books. And then I want you to tell what else you do that is so cool. So first of all, shall we, ladies first?
Yeah.
Oh.
You already mentioned Lara's 2 novels set in India, but she's got 5 other books in
I
a
know she does.
supernatural
cute.
series. Talk about that.
Well, yes, I also have a supernatural series, The Wantland Files, and each of those books is a psychic's investigation for her very popular television series. It's basically like the X-Files meets Ghost Hunters, and
Wow.
Except they actually find
but
things.
they actually find things. Yes. So her
That's
new
great.
partner, her new partner is the skeptic. It gives you kind of that Mulder and Scully vibe. But I love both those shows, obviously. I really liked Ghost Hunters, but part of the inspiration for this series was I would watch that, and just of course as they cut away, you think something's about to happen. They come back from commercial and it wasn't really that big of a deal. I thought, nope, I want something where they really do find something. So that's what got those gears turning and what started that series. Women's fiction is a huge passion of mine, though. I love writing about women's issues all over the world. And as you mentioned, the 2 that I've written already are set
And
in
you're
India.
really, really good at it. I mean, I was on the edge of my seat. And I have to tell you that when I went to the Southern Festival for the Book 2 years ago, I was asked to bring some authors for my panel. And Laura and I truly bonded on that trip because we eat the same things. We like to do the same things. So I just adore you, Laura. And I
That was a good trip.
I adore you too, Bill. I just don't know you as well yet, but I will. I will. So anyway, I'm thrilled. And you've got a Christmas book.
Yes, Christmas Spirit. That was the most recent in the series. That's true. It is. I don't think it's a spoiler at all to let on that it is a retelling of Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol, but a modernized and set in my own world.
Except
So that was a
everyone
lot
dies,
of fun.
right?
No, that was very fun. And honestly, some of the reviews say it's been a reader favorite. And I've had some people say that they really think it's the best one yet, that each book gets better and better, which makes me happy. I would rather read reviews saying each book gets better and better than she's kind of lost it. I'm done with this.
Right.
So I'm
Well,
That is
you know,
preferable.
Yeah.
I have found in the long run that most of my authors, their books do get better and better because you're honing your craft. But you guys have an insider story on that. But first, let's hear about your new book that you've got out. That was one of the most beautiful presentations I've ever received, besides Jeffrey Dale Lofton's, book that came with a little Matchbox car and the beautiful box and little things, but the Florentine Poet, which I have a
I thought she was
fascination.
talking about you.
No,
No, I'm talking about you. And I love
for you.
I
Yeah.
love the
you.
story, and it's
Fun.
so different from everything else you've written. So,
She's talking
and it
about
came with
this.
little notebooks with, get this, it came with little pens that were like the quill kind with the little, I was so impressed.
No,
So
thank
impressed.
you.
Are you talking
Right,
about the
anyway.
WriterCon swag bags
No.
or the
She's talking about
cruise?
she's talking about the book box that Katie and I put
Book
together.
box.
The little book
The
boxes.
PR book boxes. Okay, now I'm on board with you.
Box was absolutely right on, stellar, and very impressive. And I just love the book. But you've written how many books?
I've published 62 books. I'm
You
working on
guys hear this? Now you know why Scott Perry would say 100 for both stores in Tulsa. And I was just like, who is this guy? I go, who is it? I never did get to meet you, but Scott raved and raved and raved about you, that you were.
Scott was a
keeping his
great
stores
guy.
open. He was. Do you know what he's doing now?
I don't. Those
I
were
don't
wonderful
either.
stores, but alas, they couldn't beat Amazon. So
No.
they had to close.
Yeah. Well, I think he sold out to Barnes and Noble, didn't he?
I think he was, I don't know what there is to sell because there are non-bookstores in that space now. So I don't know what he did.
Well, I don't either. But that Oklahoma was my territory, and they live there in Oklahoma.
I mean, there are already 2 Barnes and Nobles in Tulsa, so I don't, Yeah, I don't know how that would work. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
No, I don't
I
know.
finished
I'm
that thought.
clueless. He was a lot of fun. We'd always go to dinner, or he'd take me on drives to show me the houses of Tulsa, which are, I'll tell you a little insider thing about Tulsa. They have beautiful homes, but none of the people put curtains up in their houses. So we would drive the neighborhoods, and you could see in everybody's front living rooms the art, the decorations. And I go, is this a thing? He goes, it's a thing. And I said, do people not believe in curtains in Tulsa? He said, no, they want people to see. But I never ever saw anybody in the homes, but just always the big window with the red wall and the artwork. It's beautiful, beautiful. It's a cool little city to tool around in. So, but tell us why you wrote this book.
You're talking about the Florentine poets still?
Mhm.
Well, I'm sorry. This is a group of readers, right? We're talking the Pulpwood Queens
They
readers,
are
the
authors
writers.
and they're readers,
both?
and we do have readers, just readers, book club readers here too.
I just
We
want
have
to know
both.
who I'm talking about. So who I'm talking
Authors and
to,
readers,
we're talking
and
about.
readers that are authors.
Okay. Well, where this come from? Okay, I've written a bunch of thrillers. That's been my mainstay, as some of you know, legal thrillers and other thrillers. I just stand alone last year called Plot Counter Plot, but I've done several series characters, and that's been, the mainstay that pays the mortgage and cool stuff like that. But it's not the only thing I read or write. And I had actually been gestating on this book, The Florentine Poet, for how long would you just say, Lara?
I read it for you in 2013.
Yeah, it was Laura who read it and said, Bill, and of course, I'm always, I just wondered, what'd you think? There's no courtrooms or murders or anyone. Is it boring? And she said, I think it's the best thing you've ever written. And that's when I said, all right, I'm sending this out. Let's get this puppy in print. But I didn't, without going into a lot of detail, it's people have called this the Princess Bride for literature lovers, which is
I love it.
right, because it's set in the past, but it's sort of a fable, and it's very much about this man who wants more than anything in the world to be a poet. I don't know where I got that character, but anyway, that's what it's about. And I just, you only get one shot at publishing the best book you've ever written, right? So I wanted it to be good. So we got a wonderful guy named Brian Call to do illustrations, which appear throughout the book, and a wonderful book designer named Carl Brune, who did the book and the dust jacket and the, what do you call, slipcase, fancy box
gorgeous,
thing.
gorgeous.
Beautiful. I mean, you can buy it in a normal ebook or paper book or a paperback if you want, but I'm
a book collector, so when I see a book like that, I want to leave it out so people can see it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you make a good point. I was really ahead of my time, wasn't I? Because in 2023, we saw all the, the young adult or new adult readers going to Fairy Loot and getting all these fancy books with illustrations and glued in maps and sprayed designed page edges and stuff. So.
Oh, cool.
It reminds me of The Alchemist as well. So.
Oh my gosh, and that's one of my favorite books ever, ever. Okay, well, so that's a good comparison. Well, that's wonderful.
Put that up front.
Yeah. So you guys also do some other things together, and I'm fascinated with it. Once I get out of school, I want to get to one of these events, but tell them what you do.
So I assume you're talking about WriterCon.
Yes.
And
started as a little, like 10 people in a room thing that I did, and it's kind of grown since then. But it's now a sort of suite of writing programs anchored by our annual conference, WriterCon, which is in Oklahoma City every Labor Day weekend. If you guys want to know more about any of this, please go to the website, which is writercon.com. Couldn't be hard. Maybe I should spell that. WRITERCON.com. writercon.com. Did I say that right? Okay.
Yeah,
Writercon.com.
did.
Say that 3 times fast. Anyway, so there's the annual conference, but now we've added a cruise, which is
Yes, a
fun
cruise,
ever.
everybody, a
Coming up in
writer's
April.
cruise.
Coming
That's
up
in April, and we do small group retreats, which, are fun. The conference is great, but the conference, for the most of the time, you talk to a large group. In these retreats, I can sit down with 6 or never more than 8 people in a group and actually read people's manuscripts and edit them or give them one-on-one, here's what I think. Plus other people in the group can read it and give, so you get a multitude of beta readers.
And it's very intense. During those 5 days, you are so focused. You are just focused on your manuscript, and you make so much progress. Those are really good for honing in on your manuscript and making progress on those. Whereas the conference is a huge lot of information over a 3-day period.
And it's probably more for people thinking about becoming a writer, or maybe they've started a book and they need information on how to move forward. Is that what you cover?
Or are writers, because we live in a world that I couldn't understate how dramatically the publishing world has changed since my first book was published in 1991. It's literally not even the same industry anymore. And even for seasoned professionals, if you want to stay on top of things, I go to conferences not hosted by me, because that's how you stay on top of the game. So yeah, it's for writers and aspiring writers, and you will have other writers there and agents, and we get real agents, like real people who I would want to represent me, or in some cases have to come
That's
to the
good to know, because I get more people asking me for publisher advice, and I go,
right.
I am not in the publishing industry. I'm in the promoting finished published books. So it's good to know where to send people if they need, I've got authors that are editors and copy,
right.
copy
And so we'll have agents and publishers and many people who work as author assistants in one department or another, audiobooks. I can pretty much fiction, nonfiction, poetry, whatever you're interested in, I can pretty much guarantee we cover it. Ooh, mention the magazine, because that's new.
Oh yeah, what about the magazine?
Well, I was going to mention that during the conference, we have several tracks throughout the day as well. And so we do have a track that is for people who are newer and just getting started, maybe need a little more craft advice. And then we're going to have some for those who maybe have their first draft and it's time to really get down to editing it. And then we also have the more advanced, the professional track, that you have your manuscript ready to go. Now what? Or maybe it's out there, but it's not selling. Now what? So we have something for everyone at that conference.
And the cruise is coming up in April.
And now we have WriterCon magazine that we've added. Yes.
It's a digital magazine. It's delivered by but our goal is to get to WriterCon all year long, if you know what I mean, because we're trying to build a writing community, a group of people who share information, know what's going on, can tell other people who I heard about this. We've got the Facebook page where people post every day, but the magazine is a way of providing information all year long. Like a couple issues ago, of course, we had somebody address AI because that was all over. In the next issue, somebody's going to be addressing romantasy, because as some of you know,
romantasy, that's a new word. Okay.
It is, but it's hot. It's one of the hottest new mashups of genre growing.
Define that for me.
Well, it's essentially a mashup of romance and fantasy, but kind of new age fantasy, and perhaps more explicitly sexual than you think of YA novels being in the past, and more violent for that matter.
Think of The Fourth Wing. Yeah.
It's Game of Thrones.
Did you see the movie about the conductor played by Kate Blanchett? That was
Tar.
the what was the name of it?
Tar.
Anyway, did you see the end of it?
I
Did
don't
you
know what
see
you're referencing. We've seen the movie though.
Okay, the end of the movie is she takes a new job and she's conducting a series of a thing I knew nothing about. It's where people dress up as animals
Oh,
in
oh,
costume, in
yeah.
fur,
Mhm.
fantasy fur costumes. I'm not going to tell you anything more, but
Yeah,
it's
we don't have so much cosplay at
okay.
RyderCon, but we do have a lot of,
But if
although
you
I
want to
don't
dress up, we
care.
had some people dress up. If you want to,
Yeah, you wanna
nobody
come
will judge you. You come how
dressed
you
as
want.
Mark Twain or
You can
whatever,
do
go
whatever
for
you
it.
want. That movie was
I,
called Tar, by the way, Kathy. Tar.
yeah, yeah, that was I couldn't stop watching it even though it was disturbing. But I love Kate Blanchett, by the way. So anyway, well, this is great. And writerscom.com will give you all the information about the conference. And
Yeah.
I've told
So
everybody goes, how do I begin writing? I go to every writers conference you can go and look for, those that are doing the genres that you want to write in. So this would be a good place to send people, of people that I trust.
should I
And
mention the books since this
yeah,
is, now like an overt commercial for writer
no,
stuff?
this
But
is
I've
why.
written a series of books on writing, the Red Sneaker Writers books, one of which is hovering over our head. Although that's a complete coincidence. I didn't plan that at all, but whatever. That's
No,
books
if
on
you had
writing.
heard Adriana Trigiani's talk earlier today, it's all about the marketing. And she goes, you got to put yourself out there. So you're just following
Yeah.
some excellent,
I've been doing it so long I can do it in my sleep. That's what it is.
I'm,
Without even thinking
I'm
about it.
impressed. I'm impressed. I'm going to open it up for anybody who has any questions about any of this and the writing process. And we have like 4 minutes, and Jamie
I just
Ford is
want to
coming.
point out, Kathy, that I came dressed as a Pulpwood Queen Barbie. See, I've
Oh,
got here.
I didn't know
I
there was a
have
dress
on,
code.
I've got to stand up for you guys see this, but
I
I
wanted
have
to
my
wear
Barbie shirt and necklace because I have people say to me, well, I'm sorry, I never played with Barbie dolls. And I go, it has nothing to do. Barbie Land has not that much to do with the doll. It has to do with women empowerment. And if you've seen the movie, I've seen it 3 times, and I've gone with my daughter and my best friend, and we were just left there and go, who wrote this thing? Greta Gerwig. It was a brilliant piece, and I thought that is what I want for the final. We had a Barbie birthday party years ago on one of her big birthdays. Maybe it was 50, I don't know. And everybody came dressed as their favorite Barbie and Ken doll. And I even had one girl come in the iconic black and white striped bathing suit in a box with a ponytail. It was like, oh man, she went all out. But I have after I went to the movie the second time, my daughter and I went to Target, and I said, let's each pick out a Barbie that represents who we are. So this was the closest thing I could find to the Pulpwood Queen Barbie. And I want you to know that I dressed her myself with mismatched outfits. This was not how she came, but
Did
my
they
daughter,
have a Nobel Prize Ken doll? Because that's the one
I'm
I.
pretty sure they did. I know. I've got here somewhere. Let me see. Just a second. Keep talking. Where did my
Did
Well,
anyone have any questions?
huh?
Did anyone want to
Yeah,
ask a
what's the
question?
question? Oh my gosh, I don't see my Desi Barbie. I've got a Desi Kindle, and he's here somewhere, but he's missing.
also, we're going to see Mean Girls tonight, so your pink is
Oh,
perfect. You
the
can just leave the
ultimate
I'll
pink
just leave
pink.
on.
this on. I'll slide right from Pulpwood Queen
You'll
Barbie
fit
and Mean
right
Girls.
in, man. They've got pink popcorn they're serving at the one in Tyler,
Oh
and
my
they've
gosh, how fun.
buckets. I'm going, man, it would happen the same night as Girlfriend Weekend. I'm a big movie person, so I go to the movies a lot, mostly to see my Indian films like all the Shah Rukh Khans and Animal and all those crazy ones. But I would love to see Mean Girls. You'll have to give me a full report.
Okay.
Can we get
Okay,
questions? If
questions.
anybody had a question about reading or writing, just ask, unmute yourself, or you can text it to us. We've got the chat box open.
I had
Well,
a question for Bill.
Mhm.
yep. Go
Um,
ahead, Jeffrey.
After as many books as you did,
You're on the road with Barbie and Ken. That's so cool. I'm sorry.
He is. He tried to make him Ken in the background, but his
Yeah,
Photoshop
I
abilities.
don't quite.
After
I'm
I'd
not
written a
quite-
bunch of books, what were you going to say?
Writing the Florentine Poet, after writing what you have written, your whole body of work,
Mhm.
what was the biggest surprise about actually doing a book that was obviously a total labor of love?
Mhm.
And do you want to go back to what you were doing right away, or do you want to keep going down different paths?
Okay, that was a lot of questions, actually, but let me think if I can cover
You're
that
making him
pretty well.
think. You're making Bill
I
think.
loved doing the book. The only question to me was, do I really think this is any good, or am I just basically indulging myself? And that's why you show it to other people. And then the question is, can it be published well? Not just, we all know you can upload anything, but if it wasn't going to be worthy of the book, then I didn't want to do it, if you know what I mean. And so anyway, it eventually came out, and as you saw, it turned out beautifully. So did I want to rush back to writing the next legal thriller? Look, I've got the best job in the world, so I am not going to complain about it, okay? As some of you know, I used to be a lawyer with a big downtown firm, and this is way better. So even if I might occasionally be somewhat tired of going back to the courtroom and print, who cares? This is the problem everybody wants to have, right? So you are
Right.
not going to hear me griping about it.
Thank you.
If you do what you love and you do it well, like Adriana was telling us, she goes, you're gonna manifest it, looks like that's what you've done.
Well, in a way, that's part of the challenge. And I've lost the gentleman who asked the question, but
That's
I
Jeffrey
mean,
Matthews. He's from Florida. He's my co-host.
hey, if you're a responsible writer, you think this is just, people are actually spending a significant portion of time reading this book. So don't waste their time. You know what I mean? Is the way I feel about it. And so you put together this book and try and come up with ways of making the next one different. Okay, everybody likes this kind of a story, but how can I make this one different? So how can I make this one structurally different or look different? Or this time it's a civil case instead of a criminal case. Or in the last one, which was called Partners in Crime, by the way, I took my very first series character from that book back in 1991 and teamed him up with my current series character. So we not only had sort of an Marvel Avengers like team up, we had a generation gap because so much time has passed. So to me, that's the challenge, not that you're going to do it just because you feel like you have to, but to think of a way to make it fun. Because I know if it's fun for me, it might be fun for readers too.
I like what you said about you tried something different with the poet. And a friend of mine, Robert Dugoni, he's an international thriller writer. But
He was one of our keynotes.
Last year, we love Bob, but go on.
Bob's really wonderful. I know him here in Seattle area, but he has also tried other things and he's done very well. I think The Extraordinary Life of Sam, book clubs just love it, but he's back and he's now writing spy thrillers and stuff like that. So, but
yes,
yeah,
but he too. Well, just last year, the book about chess, the world played chess or something like that. It's about Vietnam. It's a terrific book. Terrific book.
And I like.
I bet he started that, although I bet he did a lot better than me. But I bet he felt the same way about that I did about Florentine Poet. I know this is not gonna make our retirement fund, but is it a good book? That's the bottom line
It's a
question.
great book. I'm thrilled with it, and I'm so happy to be able to share it. So, it just so happened, it really struck me, a chord with me. So thank you for writing it, and I hope every one of you purchase it. But now we've run out of our time, and because Jamie missed out on getting his time on, he thought I was on Montana time. But anyway, he's coming in, and we're going to still keep this going with him with no break. So to work him in before we go on to the next event. So introducing Jamie Ford, New York Times bestselling author. He's jumping on board right now. And thank you to Laura and William. I hope we will do many things together. You were awesome. And Jamie, are you here yet?
Hey, Marilyn.
There I am.
Where are you? I don't see you. I'm going to turn to speaker view so I can find you.
There he
Are
is.
you here? Where is he?
Bert.
I can't see him.
He's on the bottom for me, so.
Okay. All right. I'll go to the gallery back again. Anyway, welcome, Jamie Ford. Jamie is a very humorous and fun speaker. You're in for a real treat. His books make me cry like a baby. I don't understand. I think he's dual personality. Are you Gemini, Jamie?
I'm not. I'm a Cancer.
Well, that explains why I love you so much, because I get along well with Cancers. But Jamie was my co-host for years at Girlfriend Weekend, and then he got really, really famous. And I told him that, he didn't have to come back. I didn't really mean it, but I just felt bad because they were working him to death. He got so thin, I was trying to shove macaroni and cheese, macaroni and cheese on him at the Dallas Arts and Letters program. And he said, no, I have room service and, it'll be fine. And then he emailed me later and he said, by the time I got back to their room service was over. I wish I had that truffle macaroni and cheese that I'd had from dinner. But anyway, Jamie is here, and I want you just to talk, Jamie.
Sure.
You're always so enlightening and fun to be around. What are you doing today?
What am I doing today? I literally just this moment got off the phone with a woman named Lainey Sakakura. She's one of the producers of the Hotel on the Corner Bitter and Sweet musical, which has been kind of dead in the water because of, it came to a grinding halt because of COVID. And then there were some personal issues that popped up. And I'm happy to say it's moving forward again, which I was very nervous. I'm at the risk of oversharing. I will just overshare a little bit. The last time I saw a developmental performance was in New York City, in a little developmental theater, seats like 250 people. It's right across the street from Hamilton's Theater. You're right in the heart of the theater district. And they had done a number of performances, but this was for fundraisers, and they raised $1.5 million that night.
Oh my God.
Which was pretty exciting. But most of that money, 60% of it, came from one wealthy donor, or not patron of musical theater. And because they made such a large donation, they began dictating terms. And so they insisted that they will choose the director, and then they chose a director who
it's okay. I think you told us.
yeah, chose a director that put together a production team of 20 people, and there were no people of color. And It's my main characters are Chinese, Japanese, and Black. It's set in the, the international district. And then they tried to push the developers out, who were both Japanese,
Oh,
whose both their families went to internment camps. And this person contacted me directly and wanted to work with me and for me to just walk away from the people who had been developing this musical for 7 years. And I didn't reply at all. I was so disappointed. And I talked to the producers and I said, do whatever you want, but I am sticking with you 100%. And we'll just keep going. And then COVID hit, it shut everything down. And then, sorry, this is just like a sidebar story, but I just got off the phone and this has been dead for 2 years. And
we're hearing it. We're hearing breaking news. Okay.
You're hearing breaking news. Yeah. So they met with a large theater. I won't say which one it is, but the theater itself has, they kind of call Broadway the Great White Way. 2 reasons, the lights, but it's also most of the productions are done with old money, which tend to be, older, well-established Caucasian people with connections to Broadway. But this theater, something happened, kind of like what happened in Hollywood, where they had the Oscars that one year, and in every category, it was all white people. And that's when they realized, oh, okay, maybe we need to change the voting body for the Oscars. So they retired 1/3 of the members of the Academy, and they replaced them with 1/3 that's more diverse, with people who more queer people in the voting Academy. I mean, just all of it together. And I think that kind of thing is now happening to Broadway. I wish it had happened a couple years sooner, but it appears to be happening now. And so this theater that had shown all this interest, they replaced half of their staff and half of their board. And it's a completely different makeup. And I'm completely blown away because I kind of given up on this. I didn't want to raise.
Don't ever give up, Jamie. I don't.
I mean,
don't ever give up.
I don't ever bank on any of this stuff because it can all just go poof. But you can only have your heart broken so many times before you just kind of once bitten, twice shy kind of a thing. So yeah, I'm blown away. The new I don't know what this person's title is. It's not artistic director, it's developmental director or something like that. They just had a 4-hour meeting with this person, and they may do another developmental performance this September, another one for fundraisers or for mega donors. But I can't believe it. It's alive. It's alive.
I am so happy for you, and I'm so happy you're here to share that, because we have been following you since we first got that galley of Hotel on the Corner Bitter and Sweet. And I don't even remember what year it was, but it was quite a long time ago.
It was 13 years ago, maybe 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to acknowledge that much time has passed, but it
has. Let's face it, but you're doing great. You got all those kids through college yet?
Yeah. Well, we're empty nesters. Not all of them went like my daughter, Maddie, she went to college. After 1 year, she was an art major. She dropped out, went to another college, dropped out. She wanted to be a tattoo artist, which I totally supported. I bought her first tattoo machine when she was 16, which I'm not supposed to tell anyone about because. But fortunately, Montana is a unlicensed state for. You have to pass a test.
Cool dad, huh?
Yeah, they have to pass a test for bloodborne illnesses and all that stuff. But yeah, she worked for a tattoo shop, a really nice one, for a couple of years until she could get an apprenticeship. And then she did a 3-year apprenticeship, and now she's a full-time artist. She's always booked out at least 2 or 3 months and has a nice career and no student loans. So I no complaints there. I'm especially proud of her because she kind of did it her own way and is in a better financial situation than perhaps some of her siblings who I have one daughter who just got her master's last year, and the cost for that program was like $90,000. It was
Yep.
a little
Well,
crazy, and we helped them with with the first leg of college. But if they wanted to get a master's or doctorate, that's kind of on them. But I hear that cost and I kind of cringe. Unfortunately, it's a whole bunch of reasons why that is, and no one really knows how to fix it. But sorry, that's a whole side conversation.
well, let me share this with you. You know, when you turn 65, you can go to a Texas university for free.
Really? Do you have to be
Yeah, so yeah, I'm
Definitely.
going to college for I'm tuition exempt, but I still have to pay the fees and books and parking.
there's
Which is, yeah.
there's a I think there's like 7 or 8 colleges that have a program about Taylor Swift. I would totally take that class.
I would too. I admire her so much. So
it's
that's cool. How's Lisa? Lisa, how's Lisa?
good. She my wife, those of you who know me fairly well know that my wife is she is kind of a powerhouse. I'm just swimming in her wake. But she had a project that she was very passionate about. She'd worked on it for 5 or 6 years called Toby's House. It's a crisis nursery. My wife was a labor and delivery nurse for 17 years, and we live in a very poor town, a fairly impoverished town. And so more than half of the births in this town, you would not want that child to go home with those parents. There's just some rough circumstances that these children are born into. I grew up in that circumstance, so I'm not judging from afar. I'm judging from a personal lived experience, and same with Leisha. A couple times she refers cases to DFS all the time. And a couple of them, they weren't able to remove the child and the baby was killed. 3 times that Leisha had referred a child who, within the first 2 years, was, I don't mean to bum anyone out, but was killed by a live-in boyfriend. So the mom needs the job, has to leave their kid with kind of the sketchy dude that they are financially entangled with, just to survive. And because of that, she created this crisis nursery, created a board, worked with the city, raised all the funds. It's been open for 3 years now, and it's a go-between. It's a step before you get to the children's receiving home. It's where maybe parents have a special needs child and they just never get respite time. They never get a break. Or it's a single mom who she needs childcare immediately because she has a job interview. And there's a waiting list to get into daycares and things like that. You can drop off your child for 3 days, no questions asked. I mean, you have to fill out some paperwork so they know how to, get a hold of you and all that stuff. And then also while these people are there, they counsel them to help them sign up for all the different services that are available to them within the state that they may not be aware of. And if it's a 15-year-old teen mother, they have no idea. And so it's that kind of place. Leisha invited the lieutenant governor to come tour the place. The lieutenant governor came up, toured it, broke down crying, and went back and found the funding to create 2 more of these places.
Oh man. Good
So
for Leisha. Oh man.
Yeah, and one is one is, I think they're both in eastern Montana, but one will actually be on one of the reservations, which there's just so much poverty, and I I I have a friend he teaches on the Crow Agency Reservation, and he's lived there for 20 years. His wife is indigenous, and I visit his class, once in a while. And the last time I was there, I asked him how it was going, and he said, "This is a good year." He said, "I've only had to give 2 eulogies for
Oh
2 of my
man.
students." He said in most years it's 3 to 5 of students that whether it's suicide, overdose, car accident, abuse, murder. So having a place like that in some neighborhoods and some communities that really are neglected by the state. I mean, really neglected by our state. Well, the current regime. So for them to kind of see the value in this, and then to want to create more of them, and then they're actually they're contracting Leisha and the director of this crisis nursery here in Great Falls to do the mentoring to help them get set up at the other two. So it's pretty exciting. I feel like we've talked about everything but books, but that's totally fine, because usually when I go to author events, like, I don't really need to hear the author read, because I can do that on my own. I want to know what's going on inside the author's head. I want to
Me too,
see
Jamie.
the
I
parade.
want to know who the author is, and I think you've spoke volumes to all of us here today, because you're such a giver. And Leisha, she ran for political office, and it's the only time in my life I've ever made a donation to somebody running for politics, because I so wanted her to win, but
She
alas,
lost by 80 votes.
yeah, it was sad.
And she almost unseated a majority whip, which no one gave her a chance. And and I've heard from that guy, and he's like, "She kicked my ass." Yes. Yes, she did. She didn't get the job done, but the last person that ran against him only got 30% of the vote. So he won by 72%. And this one he won by 80 votes. And the whole thing was a weird learning experience. If anyone ever wants to run for office and you don't know how, the local political party will help you. So when Leisha filed, well, I mean, they came calling because they were interested in her, but when she finally filed, then our U.S. senator had a barbecue at his ranch and invited everyone, and then there were people there to train people and kind of walk them through the process. And we had political operatives living with us for 3 months, but we had 2 of them. So it was, be careful what you wish for, because you might get it.
Yeah.
But it was cool to kind of see how it all gets done. One thing I really do like about the Montana legislature here, and it's hard for me to say that because it is conservatively controlled, not as much as Idaho or North Dakota. We're kind of a 60-40 balance. But for all the new freshman members of the House and Senate of both parties, they have a night where they all go to a meatpacking place and they make sausage together.
What?
They talk about, if you want to see how the sausage is made, they just lean into that cliche. And although they have mixed party basketball leagues and things like that. So you're on a basketball team with people sitting across the aisle from you, but you're still trying to win that night. They do a lot of things that bring that reach across the aisle, which I think is very useful. There are still some very heavy Trump people. Sorry to anyone who is a Trump supporter, but there are some Trump people. And if they MAGA people, if they work with the other party, their caucus will destroy them. And so there is a small group that they've hardened their hearts and they are not willing to budge, which is unfortunate, because before that, it was a pretty respectful, productive place. One thing I wanted to mention before we got into all of this was you talked about my first book, which came out 2009, so it's 14 years ago. On this last book tour, I have gone to book events, and twice someone has come up to me and said, I'm a published author now, and I'm inspired because you visited my high school. So I'm just like,
Oh my God.
I'm so flattered, but I'm also so like, oh, thank you for reminding me how old I actually am now. You were like, 16 and now you're 30 and you published 2 books, and yeah, it's pretty wild. One of them you would love. Her name's Addison Armstrong. She writes historical fiction. She's with a traditional publisher. I think she has 3 novels under her belt now, but you would love her. She's just
I need to tell her to send me a book, but
yeah, I will.
yeah, but
I think Janet had a question. Did you have a question, Janet?
yeah, Janet.
I first want to say, every time I walk into a comic store, I think of you. You have a great one here in Bellingham, but I'm sorry to hear about Great Falls, because I went there many years ago with my husband, and you have Lewis and Clark history there. You have an amazing museum there. You also, it's not Remington, it's Charles Russell, right?
Charles Russell, yeah.
Yeah, because he painted there. I've been to his house. It has great history. But also, we had tried to go up the Sunrise Road, and we arrived too late on the western side, so we couldn't do that. So we thought, well, let's go to Great Falls. But we went through the Blackfoot Reservation. I think it's one of the most startling. When you look back and you see the Rockies, it's stunning. But you see the poverty. I don't think I'd seen that kind of poverty until I grew up in DC in the 50s. And I hadn't seen that kind of poverty. But I know Lily, who won the Oscar, is from there, correct?
Oh, yeah. Lily Gladstone, who was in the most Killers of the Flower Moon, the Scorsese film. One of my buddies, his name's Joseph Running Crane. He used to date Lily.
Oh my gosh, that's funny.
So, he has this beautiful song called, and he was a musician, a song called Someday You Won't Remember Me. It's this very melancholic, sad song, and it's about her dumping.
Oh,
yeah,
I tell you, you always have these teenage angst stories. I remember when you talked about the girls that you had the crush on in school and how you ran into them years later. You have the best stories, man.
Yeah,
The best.
just to address Janet's comment, Great Falls Great Falls, the economy here was connected to Montana's copper industry, which died in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And so they would dig the ore in Butte, and then they would refine it here in Great Falls. But both of those industries are gone. And so the economy in Great Falls is just this flat line. We have like maybe 0.5% growth, which is good and bad. It's bad economically. It's good because there's no traffic, that kind of stuff. But in 2008, when there was that national real estate bubble that burst, and our banks failed, and it just ravaged our economy for a little bit. During that time, Great Falls was the leading economy of any community in the US because it had a 0.5. We didn't feel the boom, so we never felt the bust, which is ironic. So I see lots of authors here. So if you have authorly questions, I'd be delighted to talk about business stuff. I mean, honestly, one of my favorite things about, well, a couple of things. My two favorite things that I always would tell people about Pulpwood Queens is, one, you get to spend a lot of time with really fun readers. The book clubs there, I'm kind of a what you see is what you get. And so I'm happy just to hang out with people and have a good time. And there wasn't so much of a wall between, the readers and the authors. It was kind of this big gathering, which I really like. And then the other is what I love about really about book festivals, especially ones like in Tucson. They have a special place for all the authors to kind of hang out. And so you get to meet people that you only know them through their books, or you heard their names in the industry, or you bump into each other and you're like, one of these days we need to have coffee. And being able to hang out with authors is the coolest thing, because it's a weird business and it's really hard to complain about this business to people who aren't in it. Because they don't quite understand, and I mean, naturally, but also there are foibles with this business that you never think about until you're part of it, and then you can't. Who is there to discuss this with? So when I'm with fellow authors, it's kind of a special opportunity to talk shop and things like that. But yeah,
I'll raise my hand. I just hi, I'm Kim Davis, and I'm an indie publisher, and I know this is a question you can't answer. No, I mean, well, you could, sure, but I mean, there are a lot of things that I just want to address what you're just saying about the lack of transparency and the difficulty of getting answers to things. I find that I sit in this position and say, man, I wish I could see somebody else's books, as in their financial books. I really want to know what's going on, and nobody talks about that stuff. So I'm just raising my hand to say, yeah, I agree. I need a group like that for small publishers too. And they exist, but nobody gives their real numbers.
Yeah, this is there are a couple authors that are super transparent, but that's really rare.
It comes up a lot because I feel like there's a lot of expectation that we can't meet as a small publisher, for example. Authors come in, especially new authors, and they don't know what to expect. And I don't want to break their hearts and tell them it's not going to be what you think it's going to be, baby.
I will tell them. I'll tell you, it's hard to be an author.
Yeah, Kathy's different.
I don't think there's ever when it comes to indie publishing, I don't think we've talked enough about it. I think there's a lot that needs to be understood and communicated. And when you're in the indie publishing world, you're kind of an island of one, and it's hard to to interface and compare notes. For anyone that talked to Lisa C earlier, we were both at Ballantine, which is at Random House, and we shared an editor for a while. And so that was someone that I could talk to about.
Exactly. Those sort of people, though, they don't exist anymore. They're not even still there.
Yeah. One thing I want to say about indie publishing is, like, my agent represents Hugh Howey, who is an indie megastar. I think he's probably sold 8 million books on the Kindle. And it's tough because sometimes people are like, I'm a bestseller on the Kindle, but they're a bestseller for a book that Amazon was giving away for a short amount of time and stuff like that. But and there's a show on Apple TV called Silo, which is based on one of Hugh's series of books. Hugh is that example of someone that went the indie route and hit it big. And the only reason he really signed with an agent is he had interest from foreign editors. So he didn't know how to deal with the foreign sales.
Right.
That agent hooked him up with a film agent. these kind of things. Hugh has some really interesting ideas. He's one of the smartest people I know in general, not just in the publishing industry, but he brokered deals with my agent with traditional publishers where they would publish it traditionally and he would publish it on the Kindle and keep all the revenue.
I tried to do that. I got a British publisher and tried to keep my US rights. Well, that was just the biggest mistake in the whole world.
And your
I didn't know what I was doing.
Your publisher doesn't want to give up the electronic rights because that's the thick margin. They make so much money there. And you outfox them and got a few contracts. And then once the publishers realized what was happening, they're like, time out. And then all the traditional publishers got together and said, we will never do this.
Yeah.
There is collusion. I mean, they don't want to.
Yeah, no, but you can't.
I don't think they literally get together with robes and secret handshakes.
No, not at all. But in the interest of transparency, we're all getting hit the same way financially.
Yeah.
And it has to do with Amazon. Pardon me, did I say that name out loud? But yeah, that it has to do with Amazon and returns and fees and things that we're getting socked with. It's just killing us.
Yeah, the returns thing is madness, to let people read the book and return it and then you don't get paid. But one thing to think about in the indie world, and there's nothing wrong with indie publishing, but there's something going on behind the scenes that is not well known. Is Amazon, they want indie publishers, and they sell this idea of like, look at Hugh Howey. He self-published and he made millions. What they don't tell you is that Amazon puts their finger on the scale for certain authors. They have their golden children.
Yes. And
they get an algorithmic firepower that the average person does not get. I mean, it goes beyond that. Like Hugh.
I read this from Brandon Sanderson, I think, and from Cory Doctorow. Both of them are really good ones to read on this subject as well. What's going on behind the scenes?
Very, very much so. I think Cory Doctorow is a little more cynical, and Brandon Sanderson's probably a little more. He's an entity unto himself. He's a phenom. But like Hugh would have. He lives in New York now, but he was living in like Florida. And he would have some idea, and Amazon would send a Learjet and pick him up and fly him to Seattle for a meeting.
Wow.
That doesn't happen to everybody else.
No.
And so, they have an arrangement where they're going to promote him because he is so promotable. He's a really nice guy. He's very accessible. He's super humble, and he's very talented. And he's like 45 years old and he has abs. Like he is just ripped.
Ticks all the boxes.
Like, he takes his shirt off on Instagram and it gets 1 million likes from women and men across America. He's a gorgeous human being. I went to breakfast with Hugh one time, and we were at some hotel breakfast with like the buffet, and I had like a plate of everything, and he had like this little thing of yogurt. And I was like, okay, that's the price you got to pay to look like you have. Not sure I could pay that price, but I think indie publishing it's an ever-changing landscape, and traditional publishing, there's just some problem areas. And
well, you know that Penguin Putnam is now doing self-publishing authors.
Yeah, I think they whether that sticks or not, I'm not sure, but
they contacted me and wanted to know about my next book. And I go, is this really associated with Penguin Putnam? And it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is it hybrid, Kathy? Did you pay to publish?
Pay to have them publish your book.
Any idea what it costs? I'm curious.
No, but they said they were interested in my book. So, and I haven't even got it finished. So I don't know. I'm just very leery I'm not leery of Madville or Brother Mockingbird, but I'm a little leery of self-publishers. for good reason. So
There are some, there's small press, there's indie press, university press, all very valid. In the indie world, there are some platforms and some companies that are very valid, but there were some bad ones. And I think they've all been vetted out of the industry. But about 10 years ago, there was a notorious one where you would pay like $5,000. You submit your book and they would have to accept it. And then once they accepted it, you would have the privilege of paying them $5,000.
There's still some of those out there, I assure you.
It gets better, Kathy. They would, they offered to, to edit it, to design the cover, to, you get your book is in the ebook ecosystem. But someone sent in a book of gibberish and they published it.
Yeah, I believe it.
It proved that they weren't reading any of these. They were just, and it was a book that like the first 30 pages were the book. And then after that, it was just gibberish for another 250 pages because they were just curious. And that book was accepted. And then they paid the money, knowing they're going to get it back. And then the book is published, and then they went public with it and said, look, I need my money back, and your whole business model is a fraud. And so there were a couple and there were some agents like that too, that, the money flows to the author. So if an agent asks for money to read your manuscript, run. That's not an agent you want. And there are agents that never sell books, and all they do is
take the money,
read people's manuscripts. Whether they read them or not, I don't know. Heather.
I'm so sorry. I should have been ready. Hey, Jamie, my name is Heather, and I am a fellow Cancerian. And also, my mother-in-law is a retired labor and delivery nurse. So I was so super happy to hear both of those things. So would you answer honestly, please? I'm a brand new author. I'm self-published, and I'm thrilled that Kathy chose my memoir as one of her May bonus books for this year. So that was a thrill and an honor. How much of your success would you say is hustle, and how much of it is that, whatever you want to call it, luck, God, the universe, the muses? How much of that do you think you can move the needle on? And I would just love to hear your honest answer on that, please.
Yeah, here's my honest answer. I'll be super honest. My first book, I wrote another book, which was just practice before Hotel on the Corner of Bitter and Sweet. I queried that book. My agent, she loved it. She thought this was going to be a huge book. They're going to give you a ton of money for. I was new to all of this, and she's like, I think we can sell this for $500,000. And I was like, like record scratch. And it went to auction. It didn't sell for that much. It sold for $127,000 is what my first book sold for, which is still a very nice chunk of change. And again, the agent takes her 15%, and then you pay, 30% in taxes. And then what you're paid from the publisher is spread out.
Yes.
A third upon signing the contract, a third upon them accepting the manuscript, and a third upon the publication date. So that money could be spread out over 2 years. But I was fine with it. I was delighted that someone wanted my book, but because they didn't pay $1 million for it or $500,000, it didn't get a ton of marketing support. So it was a sleeper hit. But what happened was they sent out some advanced reader copies, and some librarians and booksellers just absolutely loved it. And so suddenly it started to get a little more attention from Random House. But it was because the sales force who went out, there's a person that sells to libraries. There's like 8 selling regions, and there's someone that sells to indie bookstores, someone that sells to big box retailers, all of that. The salespeople had such positive feedback that they started increasing my projected print run. And so the book had what I would call a zeitgeist moment. And I've learned the hard way, you can't manufacture a zeitgeist moment. It just happens. And the best you can do, you know, I really, and it's hard because that book did so well that when my second book was published, and it debuted on the New York Times bestseller list, but because the sales were so small compared to my first book, it felt like failure, which is so weird. You don't expect a bestseller to feel like failure, but that's kind of how my publisher looked at me, like, okay, well, on to the next author, because you're not it this year. And you can control your relationship to the work. You can control your relationship to readers, but you can't control the relationship of your work to readers. That's out of your hand. They're going to complete that circuit. And in the indie world, I shouldn't say indie world, just the publishing world in general, there is so much emphasis on, bookstagrammers and book talk and coming up with a viral video to promote your book and things like that. The most important viral component is the book. And if the book is something that someone wants to buy as a gift or give to their neighbor, their daughter, their mother, if it's a book that could be used in a classroom or something like that, that's a viral component that is beyond just some social media gimmick. Nothing wrong with social media. I like social media, but I do think sometimes authors, they think I'm going to publish this and then I'm going to just put all my effort into it and I'm going to make it go where I want it to go. And sometimes I don't think all the effort in the world can't make it happen. And even with my second book, which didn't do so well, I mean, they sent me on a huge tour and they promoted the heck out of it, and it didn't do well because the book was darker, and it's not. Whenever I was on tour and people were like, "Can you sign it for my mom? I'm going to give it to my mom." It's like, "Oh, don't give this one to your mom. Don't do that." And so, the failure of that book, I shouldn't say failure, but the less exciting end result of that book was my fault, because I wrote a book that I wanted to write and it wasn't a book for everybody. And that's part of my own learning process, but that's the book that was in me at the time. And so
Jamie, are you talking about Songs of Willow Frost?
Yeah.
See, that's
and I love that book.
That's my favorite book.
It's my favorite book of all my books, for sure.
I don't get why was there this negative reaction?
Hotel in the Corner of Bitter and Sweet is very G-rated. I mean, there's no sex, there's really no violence. I think there's one racial slur, and there's no swearing. And at the time when I wrote it, my kids are really little, and I'm just like, I'm going to write a book that I don't have to like hide my screen when my son walks in. And that worked in its favor because it was very accessible. I was going down a rabbit hole of a band in the early 2000s that had so much success beyond its contemporaries, and they didn't swear on the album. So that it just sold more. But like with Songs of Willow Frost, because there's some dark stuff in it. I don't want to trigger everybody by going down the list, but like in the Salt Lake Tribune or the Deseret News, I can't remember which one is owned by the LDS Church. Whenever they do a book review in the newspaper, they have what I call the box of sin. So it's like, here's the book, here's the review, and then they have a box with all the stuff you should watch out for, just so you know. So it's like, oh, here's violence, and there's rape, and there's like, swearing, and there's, sexual relations. And that book, Jeffrey, had a big box of sin attached to it. And I think that was the anchor that sort of slowed its progress, unfortunately. I really like that book. That's my wife's favorite book. It's the one that's most personal to me.
I do too. I loved it.
But
Loved it.
that happens.
I think Big Box of Sin would be a great title for a book.
Yeah.
I
That's,
do too.
when I lived in Hawaii, a friend was always advocating for, we just need to turn an island like Lanai, which is this very, super resorty island. Now I think most of it's owned by one .com billionaire. I can't remember which one these days, but he was like, we need one island that's just the zone of decadence, and there'll be gambling, and there'll be like, sex workers, and there'll be decriminalize all the drugs, and people could go there and just have their Rumspringa as a vacation. I'm babbling, but I need to hear some questions, or I want to speak to you. And if you're not an author and you're in a book club and you want to talk about book club stuff, I'm happy to go there too. Kathy.
So I am in a book club, but I'm an author. And
Me
thank
too.
you so much for all the time you're taking with us, Jamie. The discussion has stimulated a question in me.
Sure.
And that is, I've published 2 books, indie press, struggling indie press. And I was a successful journalist. It's a completely different animal. I heard Kim loud and clear, because I wish my publisher had said, oh, baby, you might make $1. But I'm okay with not earning a lot of money. I'm in my 60s. But if I wanted to start over and never be a journalist and start to be a novelist right out of school, would you advise me to write to the general public first, make my fortune, and then write the things that come from my heart? My books have dark moments. There's never any really vivid on it. It deals with things that people squirm about. And it does so multiculturally, because I've lived all over the world. So could that be the issue? Right now I'm writing a memoir that has only white people in it. And so it bothers me a little, because it hasn't been my life. But I'm just trying to figure out what to write next, and whether I just write it to myself and read it and say, great job, or whether is there any hope, actually?
Yeah, no, I think there's,
I don't need a big publisher. I just need more readers.
I'm a one of my favorite quotes is from the late author Harlan Ellison, and he said, "You should always write for the wisest, wittiest, most intelligent audience in the universe. Write for yourself."
Absolutely, Jamie Ford. I'm right there with you.
I write for myself, though I have an awareness that there's, it's part of a business model. And you have to have a bit of an awareness of your own work, and a willingness to, a Zen Buddhist would say, empty your cup. Your cup is, like some authors, their cup is full. And an example of this is, I did a workshop in Hawaii. There was a gentleman who I think he was from New Zealand, and he had indie published 7 novels. And he just wanted to know, how do I make these novels bestsellers? And I read part of one, and I said, you need to empty your cup. You need to say, okay, this is what I've done, but there's some problems with how I'm telling the story. I could do certain things better, and I need to learn how to do those things if you want your book to reach a wider audience. And he said, yeah, sounds like too much work. I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. And that's, I can't help that person. And there's nothing wrong if he's very happy. In my workshops, I talk about, and Jeffrey's going to be in one of those, and we can talk about it, but I definitely talk about understanding where you are on the landscape between commercial and literary, and being happy there. And if you're not happy, you have to move in one direction or another. So if you're writing for yourself or for a big audience, it doesn't matter as long as you're happy. But if you're unhappy, then you need to make certain changes. Otherwise, you're just going to be in that same spot.
Do you teach those changes about how to be a bestseller? I think the success in the liter. I'm not saying you would be able to, you know, download it into me. That hasn't happened yet. It probably never will. But I'm a literary writer. I got a BFA. I probably have that lyrical voice. I'm not certain I can change it. I definitely have a Southern voice. But I can write about anything. I guess what I'm wondering is, if I get a really great Midwest book review, does that mean there's still problems with the book? I- I'm very confused, because I was a journalist, and I love how an editor would throw something at me and say, this is a piece of bleep. And then they would say, you got to do this and you got to do this. And it was story by story, right? There's no such, even if you hire an editor, and I've hired a lot and they love it, and then you go on to the next editor because it's still not getting what you want, and they love it, and then you go on to the next editor. It's been my entire lifetime of that, and enough complaining. I really would love to know what a bigger audience would want, other than really stellar writing. I'm not saying my writing's stellar.
Yeah.
Although I did get both books picked by Kathy, so I know I'm no slouch. But I guess I'm at the point in my life, if not my career, that I'm trying to decide whether to take one more shot at the big time, because I have a decision to make, or let's just go indie to indie publisher and have my, you know, the people that love my book. There are people that love my book. It's just the other thing is that with all my marketing, it's not reaching enough people.
Yeah, I don't want to do the marketing myself. I mean, I travel a lot. I do book events. I put a lot of energy into those events. I do know, you know, just because my early job out of college, I worked for a newspaper, so I still know some of these newspaper people. And so there's a couple, like I can get a review in the newspaper in Walla Walla, Washington, because I know the publisher, you know, that kind of stuff. That's not going to make or break a book. But I really think writing is so difficult, and it takes so much of your time, that you gotta do it because you're doing it for yourself, because you're getting that kind of satisfaction out of it. And then if it sells really well, that's a bonus. I'm sure there are some authors that are like, nope, we're gonna write something super commercial and go for it. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's a certain logic to that. But for me, when I teach writing workshops, what I say is, I can show you where the door is, whether you have the talent or the drive or a thick skin, because you need that to go through that door. That's up to you. But I can help you point yourself in that direction. And at times you may need some radical retooling of how you work. An example of this is Lisa Wingate.
Yes.
And I love Lisa, but I think she was on a schedule where she was publishing 3 or 4 books a year, and she was with a Christian publisher, like an offshoot of Harlequin. She was, you know, it was more about volume than it was one singular book. It was like find people who like your books and then just hit them with a lot of books over the years. And she had a family at home. She had kids, and she's, you know, got to pay the bills. But as I think it was it her 30th book, Kathy?
30th book, Jamie. And let me tell you something. Lisa learned her craft is what happened. Lisa's books were all good, but the more she wrote, and she wrote about things she was interested in, she finally reached a point, so many 10,000 hours, you're an expert. Okay. So she reached a point where she found it. But I think I'm going to get Jamie off the hook here. You have to write what you're proud of and what you believe in. Don't write for a commercial audience. I don't want to see that book. I want to see stories that haven't been told by passionate people who are honing their craft. And I know that may not bring you all the accolades that you may want in your life, but you can be proud of your work. I mean, be proud of your work and make everything you do be something that you want to invest your time in. If you want to be a commercial writer, James Patterson learned how to do it better than anybody I ever know, and he's a terrifically nice guy. But as far as reads, for me, I want a great book with a great story. That's all. I think that's what most
That's
people
all I
want.
want to. And thank you both. I don't think I could write mass fiction like James Patterson if I tried. So there's no worry in all of that. I think I got my answer from Jamie. Thank you so much. I'm just going to keep on writing and sending
But
and
the other,
not care. I mean, that's really it. They just say, you need more readers, you need more readers.
yeah,
I don't need accolades. I've got those. I've had those.
I hate to wrap it up, you guys, but we're not going to have any time to get ready for tonight because we were supposed to end quite some time ago. And at 6 o'clock, we begin again. So
we just say
if we
one
can
last thing.
continue, yeah, go ahead, Jamie.
I just wanted to finish that thought about Lisa. She had to part with her agent because she wanted to spend more time on a book and write a different kind of book. And then she had to part with her publisher. And so that was a risk, but she leaned into what she really wanted to do. She had a guaranteed contract with this other publisher, and her agent would have kept selling her 4 books a year, but she had to walk away from all of that. So sometimes you have to just retool how you do things.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's my answer.
Good advice, Jamie Ford. You
Mhm.
are my hero. So thank you. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Jamie.
Okay, everybody, if you
out
have
there.
any more questions, go to Jamie Ford's Facebook page. Or Jamie, if you have anything else you want to say, just post it on my page. I'll approve it and keep the conversation going. I love you, man. I just think you're terrific. You deserve all that is coming your way, and congratulations on this wonderful play. I know it's all going to work out in the long run because you're a good guy. You're one of the good guys, as everybody is here. So thank you for being here. We're going to be back at 6 o'clock, you guys, for the Pulpwood Queen Great Big Ball of Hair Ball, and it's Barbie Land theme. And I just like to announce the winner of the tiara contest. It's very simple. It's Peggy. Peggy, yeah. Peggy has done a Barbie Land theme.
Got the Barbie
She's got
on.
it all happening.
Oh.
You're the winner. I've got something very special I'm going to be sending you, Peggy. So after the weekend, let's exchange addresses and then you can show it on our Facebook page or something. So anyway, something really special is coming your way. And Jamie, I can't thank you enough for coming back and dealing with the flawed Pulpwood Queen, but you helped bring this book club to where it was at. You're a favorite author, and I'm so happy you were with me on my last girlfriend weekend, because it's like it isn't working anymore, y'all. I mean, I've got all the authors here, but my readers, I don't know where they are. So I'll be back and I'll tell you all about it tomorrow night at our award ceremony. So thank you, Jamie. I can always count on you, and tell Leisha I'm so proud of her. And I remember the year you went to Africa and helped deliver babies in those villages with all your kids. And tell them how many kids you've got.
We raised a Brady Bunch blended family of 6 children. And they were all 6 teenagers at once. It was
Yes.
crazy. And Leisha actually went back.
Did she?
Yeah, she went, and yeah, she delivered a set of twins with no running water or electricity. And one of those twins is named Leisha now, which is
Oh,
so cool.
tell her I love that story. One day you're going to have to write a story about you guys, your family, because you are the my version of the Brady Bunch, only way better. So
We
their
survived.
Christmas cards are awesome too, by the way. My favorite one was where you were all standing with all the colored holly, powders or whatever that is. I love that one. So thank you, everybody. It's time to get ready for the ball. I don't know what time is it. You guys, we have less than 30 minutes to get ready. So, Jamie, if you feel like you and Alicia want to come back, join us. If you want to come tomorrow and jump on that AI thing with Jeffrey, you can jump in on anything you want. I'll let you in. So, thank you, everybody. We'll see you at
Stay
6
warm.
o'clock. Love you. Bye.